All right, it's 4 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us for this webinar series today. We're so happy that you're with us. My name's Lauren Jones. I am co-hosting these webinars with 8 amazing women that are experts and practitioners around the world. So before we start, if you could just quickly in the chat, drop your name and where you're located, just so we know kind of who's with us. And then I'll turn it over to Lauren. We'll jump in just on the next slide and say a couple things about the series before we jump into our learning. But go ahead and just drop your name and where you're at right now, so we kind of know where everyone's coming from. Hi, Christelle. Hi, Timo. Hey, Matt. Nice to meet you. I've heard from Callie about you. Hey, Julie. Welcome. Hi, Haran. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you all. And thank you for figuring out a new platform in case anyone hasn't used Riverside before. I'll go ahead and introduce Lauren, who is with us as our first presenter today, the brave one that went first in our webinar series, who's joining us from Saudi Arabia. Lauren, do you want to introduce yourself before we jump in?
Tretina, I've been abroad for about 16 years. I'm originally from the US, from New Jersey, those of you who are from the East Coast. Right now, I am in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I work as the coordinator of the elementary school. I was previously the director. And looking at this particular role, observing teachers over the last 15 years, the power of choice today is going to be the topic, really increasing the engagement for those neurodiverse learners. The school that I work at currently has 1,600 students. There's neurodiverse learners all the way from preschool up until grade 12.
Thanks so much. If you don't mind, will you just hop to that next slide, and I'm just going to share with everyone that's here about the remainder of the series before we jump into our learning. Thank you. So we do just want to give a shout out to Equip My School, who provides materials and resources for schools around the world, and they are our sponsors for this webinar, which we're really grateful to them for their support. And I just wanted to note that to get reminders for every webinar, you do have to sign up for each date individually in the invite on Calendly. So be sure you've done that. The link will be the same, so you can join on the same link every week, but just in case you want those reminders or you want to add it to your calendar, be sure to sign up individually, and it'll be the same time every Tuesday from now until October 21st. So we're really excited to have all of these experts around the world joining us for this series. So thanks again. If anyone else has jumped on the call, please just drop your name and where you're joining us from for our learning today. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Lauren. Let me know if you need anything on my side.
There's a couple more slides here of presenters. Do you want to talk about the affiliated
Consultancy, sure. So the slides that Lauren just showed just introduce our other presenters that'll be coming in the weeks ahead. They are from all different locations around the world, and some of them are consultants, and these are the affiliated consultancies, just in case you wanted to take a picture and look into any of the background and the services that these consultants provide. These are just some of the ones that are joining us and their businesses where they support schools and organizations around the world.
Fantastic. Thank you. So as we dive in today a little bit, this PowerPoint and presentation today is for learners or teachers and professionals who have minimal knowledge about neurodiversity and those who also have more extensive knowledge. Really, we try to create something where everyone can learn. So keep that in mind as we go through today.
Thanks, Lauren. I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is something we are recording and we're going to have on YouTube as a series. So if you're here and you're like, I know about this, but actually this would be good for my team, or if you know a local or public school that could benefit from this learning, we really wanted, the whole idea of this was that we came together to offer a free series for it to be accessible to anyone, anywhere that wants to figure out how to be more inclusive in their context. So thank you for mentioning that.
Absolutely. So just looking at the objectives for today, creating meaningful choices, it's easier than we make it out to be. I do supervise learning supports, teachers, individual PLAs, we call the shadow teachers, PLAs, assistants, and also homeroom and subject area teachers. And over the last few years, really looking at those small things that we can leverage that make a big difference in the classroom. So really at looking at the neurodiversities that we all have in every single classroom. The things that we're going to hone in on today are the buy-in, on-task behavior, reducing behavioral barriers, and really increasing that agency and autonomy. As learners ourselves, we really have figured out as adults what works for us, what doesn't work for us. And that is really, really important as we navigate through life. A lot of the things I talk about today do align with universal design for learning, more specifically with the engagement piece. So if you're not familiar with UDL, there's some links in the PowerPoint for you to learn more about. All right, so let's jump in today. Feel free to uh, talk in the chat, ask any questions as we go through the PowerPoint today. All right, I have a few stories. I do like to tell a lot of stories, and I have a few stories that will help guide you today. A lot of you have been to IKEA. This is a store almost, I think, in every country now. And as I moved into a new house this summer, this was really appropriate for this discussion. Look at these pictures here. When I was walking up to IKEA, I noticed that there were many different shopping carts. You have the small pulley one, you have the regular grocery store shopping cart, you have the shopping cart for big bulky things, and then you have this kind of awkward shopping cart for like bags and I think a child can sit in there, all right? These shopping carts really fit the need for each person at the store. They have a goal. They provide everyone who walks in with a choice based on their need. IKEA said, hey, we know that every shopper is going to be varied. Some shoppers want really small things. Other shoppers want big things they can't hold. They have to push it on a trolley or a cart. IKEA was really smart. They said, one size cart doesn't fit all. We need a system where we can diversify and we can have carts that fit the needs of each and every shopper that comes in. I mean, you can see one of my shopping carts is there. That yellow one was mine. I did buy two kind of these drawer things. And so that's the one that I chose because my needs that day were small items. Just like IKEA has different shopping carts, our classrooms have different needs. Our students need different things at different times, right? Sometimes we pull that small cart. Sometimes they need a bigger one. We have different needs, different abilities. We have high ability learners. We have learners with neurodiversities. Neurodiversities are diversities in the neurons in our brains. We think differently. We act differently. And recognizing these variabilities is so important, especially in the classroom. So as you go, you can feel free to steal this slide and use it for any future presentations that you have. It's really meaningful and it does show how we have to adapt. The needs of our learners aren't stagnant either. Just like these shopping carts, their needs are always changing. It can change day by day, class by class, marking period by marking period. And we always have to keep that in mind. It's our job to make sure those learners can access what they need to be successful. All right. When we look at learner variability, you can click on this link to learn more. This is from one of my alma maters, Rowan University. It's also in the reference section. Looking at learner variability, it's how learners are very different. There is a metaphor that variability is like the fingerprints. Everyone has a unique fingerprint to them. Learners have different preferences, and those preferences change. I'm going to talk about my son. He used to like PJ Masks and Paw Patrol. He's grown out of that, way out of that, and that's not a preference of his anymore. If I gave him math and tied it to Paw Patrol, he would do every single one. If I tied it now, he would probably laugh at me. And also looking at our reinforcement. I am a board certified behavior analyst, and reinforcement is huge. We know that the biggest type of reinforcement, the highest leverage we have, is social reinforcement, and that looks different to everyone. For my family, my husband is Italian. His social reinforcement is often kisses on the cheek, high fives. He's very touchy and lovey. For some people, that type of social reinforcement isn't appropriate. I do live in Saudi Arabia, that if my husband were to do some of those actions to a woman in a hijab, it wouldn't be perceived the same way. So social reinforcement is different in different contexts as well. We use choice and learner variability to really build on those personal pathways. And we're going to get into that today. And choice is huge. And I have seen in a lot of the observations and teachers' feedback and coaching that it is something that's often left out. And we have to kind of pair those two things together, is that autonomy, agency, and variability with the choice that matches all of those unique characteristics. So this is a slide that many of you already know. This ties into universal design for learning, and there might be some of you who are versed in UDL and using the UDL practices at your school. UDL is a framework. It is a framework where all students can access learning. We are not diving into UDL today, but I do hope that Lauren Jones has a future talk on universal design for learning, and I will just dabble into it. Universal design, and there's two links. I think the dark one, the black one, is from the CAST website. I do recommend that you go on there and kind of go through some of their awesome materials. Universal design for learning, it is a framework, and it elevates all of the strengths and eliminates a lot of barriers. And so looking at that language, the barriers are always changing. And I'm just going to talk about language for a second. I'm really big on utilizing the word barrier instead of the word issue, making it more asset-based. When we look at every student in our classroom and even ourselves, we all have different barriers. Today, my barrier might be that I'm tired. My barrier might be my stomach aches. All have different strengths and different barriers at the same time, right? But what we do as adults is that we have agency over ourselves. We can pick the things that make us feel better. I feel tired, I can drink coffee. I know what to go. My stomach hurts, I know what to do. I want a heat pack on my stomach. We have that agency and those behavior patterns that we know these things make us feel better. And this is what I need to be the most successful individual, whether it's at school or at home. What UDL does is that it embraces variability, as I've mentioned, and that there's no average brain. None of us are the same. A single one of us, okay? Really, there's three big themes of UDL. When we look at the era, the engagement, the representation, and action, that's how I do like to remember it. Today, in this presentation, we're focusing on engagement. We are going to focus on engagement. Back to school, I don't know about you, but we just started school this week. And we have a few new admins on the team. It was great to hear one of the admins talk about engagement. And she said, she got up there, her first few minutes, she talked about engagement, and she said, take care of yourself. As adults, if you need to go get a tissue, if you need to go to the bathroom, if you need to change the way you're sitting, and if you need to respond to a text message and then come back to me, I know that engagement is not going to be 100% on task all the time. Engagement is in and out. You're going to come in and out of engagement. When you're regulated and ready to learn and everything is equanimous, you're with us. If there's something you need to get and take care of yourself and then come back to, hey, that's a win for me too. And she started off her PD, brand new administrator, by talking about taking care of yourself and do what you need to do to be as engaged as possible. What she did was she gave everyone a choice, a voice, and their autonomy to be who they are. Another story about engagement. I keep myself regulated. I have this ring that I spin. Okay. I sit here, you wouldn't even know that I'm playing with it under the table unless you can hear it, right? One way that I create engagement in my body and I regulate my body is spinning my ring. I'm making choices to remain invested. This is how I remain invested. And I will give you eye contact and be part of that when I'm doing this. And so those are just some examples of engagement. Hopefully you were able to read this a bit while I was talking. There's a QR code there for you to learn more about engagement, representation, action, and expression. When we look at engagement when it comes to UDL purposes, it's a little bit different than what I was just telling you. Engagement when it comes to UDL is that why of learning. Why do we need to learn a certain material? Allowing the students to make choices to remain engaged. Why is this relevant to them? Okay, it's not just about staying motivated, but it's the relevancy. That why of learning is providing different opportunities. If you look at this PowerPoint, you can listen to me. You can read the PowerPoint. You can click on one of these QR codes. There's many different ways that you can engage. If you want, you can also type in the chat. We're here to get feedback from you and have you be a participant. So how can we access that information and give them what they need? The next one is representation. We're not going to get into these two, representation and action, today, but it is just for you to know. When we look at the representation, it's the what. It's providing different materials for that lesson, that scaffolded support, breaking things down, making sure that we are offering different ways to access. Is it in chart format? Is it visuals, T-charts, different models for comprehension? Says note taking, highlighting, monitoring, things like that. What is the what of learning, and how do we encompass the what of learning? And you can see that there is overlaps between these two. We have to have different modalities of representing, and we also have to make sure they're engaged with those modalities. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. For the last one, the action and expression when it comes to UDL is allowing students to show what they've learned using different tools and technology and resources, speech to text, calculators, any online apps, pencils, writing, anything, giving them a choice. Do they want to present it in a whole group, small group? How do they want to reflect on their learning and share what they've learned with others? So in an ideal world, we would have different means of engagement, representation, and action. Today, we are focusing on engagement. Just to get some info from you, can you just put in the chat, yes, I know about UDL. I'm very familiar with it on a scale of maybe 1 to 5, 5 being, yes, I've taken all of the NOVAC, the CAS courses, the Harvard courses, or kind of a 1. This is pretty new to me, like a Likert scale. Can you put in the chat a 1 to 5? 5 being, yes, I really know UDL, or a 1 being, this is semi-new to me. Can you put that in the chat now? 1 to 5, just so we know. Perfect. Thank you, Christelle. Fantastic to see. Yeah. All right. We know who your next speakers are, Lauren. This is great to see. Thank you so much. And please click on those links to learn more. I do suggest a lot of the teachers that I've worked with have done both CAST, NOVAC, and Harvard courses in UDL, and they've been all wonderful choices. All right. All right, now it's time to kick it up a notch. Thank you all for sharing. It does seem like we have different expertises here. So I want you to really think about this. This is a twist, okay? I was in IKEA and I saw those shopping carts as I was entering. Then I entered IKEA and this is what I saw. It's very different. This is what I saw. Thank you, Laura. I saw 3 different ways to go upstairs. 3 different ways. We have the stairs, we have the escalator, and we have the elevator. Okay? 3 different ways to reach our goal, which was going up the stairs. And I was thinking, I just saw the shopping carts, and those are needs-based to meet the need, and the goal was to go shopping. But now the goal is to go up the stairs. What is at play here? How is this different than the shopping carts? And as a behavior analyst, one thing I am always doing is trying to figure out the environment. And I'm always analyzing the environment. And I did this here. And I have a picture for you. This is not copyright, so please don't tell I can't take the picture. For this picture, click on that code now. Click on that code. It's a Mentimeter, and I'm sure a lot of you have Mentimeter, so you just take your phone.
Oh, Lauren, you muted yourself. We can't hear you. It's okay. No problem. I think what she was about to say is that you can use your phone to take a picture of the QR code, and it'll pop up the Mentimeter for you, so you can take the survey. Maybe it connected to your phone speaker? Yeah, we can't hear you. All right, so go ahead and take that Mentimeter while Lauren comes back to us. Oh, I can hear you, I think. Oh, no.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I did. I connected to my phone. I can't pull the Mentimeter up. Do you see it on your screen, Lauren?
Can somebody drop in the chat? I can pull it up as well. Yeah, I just want to be sure everyone
Okay.
on the call.
So what is in play now? What is in play now? Now, I want you to think about this. I don't have a physical disability. I can do all 3 means. I can go up the stairs, I can go up the escalator, and I can go up the elevator. But what is in play now when we look at these different ways of achieving the goal? I love it. What else do you have on the Mentimeter there, Lauren?
Oh, I'm trying to give me a minute. Hold on. I'm trying to pull it up on the
Okay,
screen
so
so I can share it in the
if
chat for you
this
all.
link doesn't work, because if I log on my phone, it disconnects from the computer. Can you put what you were going to say in the chat? I'm sorry about this technical barrier. Can you please put it in the chat, what you put in the Mentimeter? And I'm really sorry. What is in play now? Christelle said it's choice. Variety. Oh, nice one. Timo, Aisha, Matt. Opportunities. Aisha. Voice. Yes. Voice and choice. Agency. That's right. That's exactly it, Aisha and Christelle. That voice and choice. We have an active role of picking. When I stepped here, I also had something else. I had a little bit of motivation. I didn't go to the gym that day. Grit, Matt, that's exactly what I had when I saw this. It was the grit and desire, all of those wonderful things together. I didn't go to the gym. I actually didn't do much that day in regards to physical movement. And I said to myself, I'm going to take those stairs. I had an opportunity, as Aisha said, to put more of my physical energy into going up the stairs and maybe get my 10,000 steps of the day. But that choice and variety and grit and desire, it all goes back into my agency, what I chose to do, and also a little bit into my reinforcement, the likelihood of me engaging in more aerobic exercises to meet my goal for the day. And it's a little bit different than the shopping cart. With the shopping cart activity, we had needs in play. Here we have preferences, motivation, and choices. In this particular situation, I chose the option that felt the most motivating for me and aligned with my highest preference at that moment. So offering multiple pathways to accomplish the same thing isn't just about variability. It fuels motivation, agency, and buy-in. Looking at all of these different pathways, I could have chose any of them. When we look at students in the classroom, we have to think about What are they bringing to the table right now? I know that they were just in science class with Miss Smith, and she does a lot of lecturing and they have to take notes. They're not allowed to move out of their chair. She does not do a lot of group activities, and she does block classes, so they're an hour and a half. And this is feedback that I've gotten. Miss Smith, she is the one who just does lecturing, note taking. When they come into your class, the likelihood of them wanting to sit down and take notes is going to be really low. The value of them sitting and taking notes is going to be much lower. We have to think about motivation and preferences as teachers, and this is often overlooked. What are they coming into the class with? What do we know about what happened right before that class? And how can we learn more about our students? All right, looking at that choice and that IKEA trip, that's the last example from IKEA for this presentation, but it does really make you think about the classroom. Choices provide control. One thing when I was in control, I had agency and autonomy in choosing which stairs I wanted to go up, right? That was something I chose. And this is really hard. When I am talking to teachers, we often think teachers are in control of the classroom. We want teachers to be the ones telling students what to do, what not to do. When we look at those student-centered classrooms, we actually want students to be in control as they get older. I had a conversation with a colleague last year that really sticks out in my head about agency and voice and choice. And she said to me, oftentimes the voice, choice, and agency is squashed at such a young age that when they get older, they don't have that autonomy. They actually can't think for themselves. Even small things, even the really small things. We were talking about how we learn best, and some students like grid paper like this to write on, right? I like lined paper. This particular student that we were talking about really likes this dot paper. I don't know if any of you have seen this dot paper, but it's paper and it just has dots all over it. Has anyone seen this dot paper? You've got to look into it. It's like the thing, there's like one thumbs up, right? I didn't even know what this dot paper is. We were talking about, Aisha says yes. This was new for me. You're writing on one now? That's awesome. I don't know if you can put a picture in the chat. I don't have a picture of it. And we were talking because this particular student in the classroom wanted to use this dot paper. And I was coaching with the teacher and another administrator at the time, and we were talking about this autonomy and agency that she wants to use this dot paper. The teacher wants her to use line paper. Both admins and I said, the dot paper it is. It doesn't really matter. And this is part of the conversation of squishing that choice and voice. I'm going to have to get that dot paper if Christelle has it as well. We've got to invest in that. But Christelle and Aisha, they might use this dot paper to help them. They're more in control. They don't have to use the lined paper in a 3-ring binder, right? They're more motivated to learn when they have this. In addition, these small things like what paper we write on builds trust. It shifts that dynamic from you have to do it this way every single time to some power in the students. Those small adjustments are so powerful. Does it really matter that they're using lined paper? These choices also align with UDL, and it's tied to their motivation. We're going to get into the science of motivation. I only have one slide. I had a lot more in I got feedback that it was too scientific, so we're going to go back to that in a second. But really, choices should be motivating for that individual. And I'm so happy to hear that you got the dot paper. Where did you get it from? Amazon? Aisha and
Lauren, I was just
Christelle?
looking up dot paper, like where you could get it from, and I didn't put
Oh, really?
Amazon in the chat because, of course, there's a lot of places that you don't get
Oh,
Amazon.
really?
Yeah, but
Oh,
there's a
in the
lot of
notebook.
provided. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like the bullet journaling as well, which has become a trendy way of journaling. So I think it's a similar thing. Maybe Christelle can tell us or Aisha
That's
because they're
exactly it. Bullet journaling. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, bullet journal. Okay, yes.
So look out for that. That's like this is new, a new way of writing. All right. All right. So just looking at those choices, we have a scenario here. Before we get into the scenario, we're going to talk about choices and the science of applied behavior analysis. When we look at choices, choices is a scientific, research-based antecedent intervention. When we look at antecedent interventions, we have the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence, right? Antecedent, it happens before we do things. Almost everything we do presents a choice. Don't quote me, there is an article that says we shouldn't present more than 6 choices at a time. I don't know who wrote it, but that's a lot of choices. Oftentimes it's 2 or 3, okay? 2 or 3 choices. Choices is proactive. It's something we think about before we do, and it taps into natural motivation, interests. I have a spelling mistake there. It fosters independence and ownership. Remember all of those things as we do this scenario. You're going to put your feedback of this scenario in the chat, okay? Scenario in the chat. You're about to begin a math lesson right after recess, okay? Here's the scenario. You notice many students are wiggling in their chair, showing higher than usual energy levels. Based on these observations, what choices could you embed in the lesson to channel their energy productively? Okay. Going to say it again. If you want to listen or you read, you can, but I'll say it one more time. Please put your responses in the chat. There is no right or wrong answer to this. Okay. You're about to begin a math lesson right after recess. Okay. You're an elementary teacher. You notice many students wiggling in their chairs, showing higher than usual energy levels. Based off of these observations, and you're about to start your lesson, what choices can you embed to channel their energy productively? Maya, thank you so much for your response.
Yeah, I like the silent walk. That's
Mm-hmm.
a good one, right?
Absolutely.
Grounding.
Maya said grounding for a few minutes. Let them silently walk around the room. Don't talk to each other, but just walk in any direction. Provide them with a wiggle cushion, a moving stool, a task they can do outside on the playground, a brain break, and a mindful moment. Lydia also says do an activity with active breaks. Or Matt, I love it, short intervals with breaks. Facilitated structure break. Haroon, nice, stretch after coming in, a water break. These are all really great strategies. Their behavior has given you clues and cues. Remember, behavior is communication. They're communicating with you that they're not ready for math just yet. The behavior we want them to do is be focused for math, right? A lot of you said breaks, taking structured breaks, being prepared. So if we're looking at the power of and a lot of you said short intervals for breaks, active breaks, structured movements, right? These are all wonderful things. How can we incorporate choice in these active breaks? You're absolutely right. Mindfulness would help ground them. A walk around the room would help ground them. This is exactly what any experienced teacher or professional or even administrators would do. We would make sure they're ready to learn. These are awesome answers. Now take it a bit further. How can we embed choice? Timo, thank you so much. They can sit or stand or lie while working. My heart is so happy with that response. Start with choices of math games or riddles they can focus on. 3 to 4 centers. Aisha said flexible seating. I'm going to go back up to
Yeah, Christelle said a
Maya,
choice board.
choice board. Maya, I'm going to tap into something you said. You talked about grounding activities and you also talked about mindfulness, right? Even today, I was doing some activities with a student, breathing activities, and getting that particular student more mindful. How can we take mindfulness and incorporate choices in that in a whole group setting? Let's just take breathing, for example. How can we incorporate a choice in those breathing mindfulness exercises, getting the class ready? That's right, Maya. There's so many choices that you can do. So when you're getting your class ready and your class comes back, all right, class, you can either take a deep breath and blow out your flower. You can blow out your flower petals, or you can hiss like a snake. Or the candles. That's exactly right, Aisha. You can blow your flower or the candles, right? And you model it for them and show them, and they can choose. Okay, we're going to start the lesson with agency, autonomy, and voice, getting them ready for math with a choice of how they can regulate their body. Okay. That is really important about how we can create choices almost everywhere. And it's so simple. It is so simple. And yes, we see teachers doing flexible seating. You can sit on the wiggly stool or the floor. I love that option that you gave to sit on the floor. That is really grounding. Okay. Here's a really fun one that often gets me in trouble. You can do the next activity with your shoes on or off, right? That grounding on the floor. I don't know if some schools would be okay with that. And then you do some kind of mindfulness with your shoes on or off. And those little things, those little tiny buy-ins creates a really safe environment where students here feel heard. Haroon says asking what would help them may also be helpful for them. I love the choice board mentioned, and students can contribute to that board. Yes. So, choice boards, when it comes to regulation, is incredible. A lot of teachers have the calm down areas, but also choice boards as whole class. I did an activity for learning support assistants and all of the assistants, and I used two different rain sticks and I separated them. If your energy needs to come up, go on this side. If your energy needs to come down, go on this side. And I used rain sticks to regulate both of their energies to start. Having them choose, be aware of their internal state and choose. Wow, really? Maya said, you have 5 minutes of silence. Do whatever you want, but you have to be silent. Wow, that's incredible, Maya. Well, we'll have to see how that works. That's a lot of choice. That's like open autonomy. Here you go. Open the floodgates. But it is really great to see. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, small class, small class. And that's the key is that we do see a lot of these in the learning support classes. Some of them are really small or the pull outs or interventions. We see a lot of these choices happening and that kind of disconnect. If anyone's doing their PhD or EDD, a deeper dive into choice making in larger groups is definitely something that could use more research. Oh, you saw a class of 24 students? Oh, that's awesome. All right. All right. So, looking at the neurodiverse learners that we often have, choice does create that autonomy and it also has that buy in because we are looking at different ways to access opportunities. This is one choice board. It is from Lesson Picks. We do use this often. It is to create, I even have some here on my desk to create visuals that don't work for them at all, but I'm just showing you one resource. And this is just choices that you can use with learners who have limited verbal expression. Do they want to work alone? Do they want to work in groups? Do they want to use a pen, a pencil, a marker? And also, where do they want to learn that location? And so they can just circle it if they can't respond or touch, and you're more than welcome to use this with your learners. And that buy-in, as we said, the antecedent intervention. Maybe they don't want to be with other students that day, and maybe they do want to work on the floor or get some pressure from the beanbag.
Lauren, where did you say you get these resources? I'm going to drop it in the chat.
Yeah, Lesson Pix, Lessonpix. We do make a lot of our visuals from there. They have some new kind of tools where you can put some pictures together, and it's fairly easy to use. I have been using it for, I think, about 15 years now, and it's kind of my go-to. Oh, thank you so much.
Sure thing.
All right. So we only have a few more slides left. Some really big points to take home. When we look at all of the choices that we offer in the classroom and getting ready to learn, the one thing, if you remember the IKEA things from today, that's wonderful, those metaphors, but also about the objective of the lesson. And this is something I want you to carry with you and preach as you coach other teachers, is what is the objective of the lesson? And how do we get students there? When I was giving the example of the notebook, the teacher was hung up on using the lined notebook. We have to go back to the objective of the lesson. Is the objective that everyone uses the same notebook? Or is their objective related to the content? And from my experience, looking at those little things that teachers can let go. For example, the pen color, the color of the pen. I'm going to talk about my secretary, Timmy. I'm using her first name. If you go past her desk, she uses the most colorful, vibrant pens ever, okay? Everything has color to it. Everything has pizzazz. She is the queen of colors. And I said to her one day, why don't you just use a blue pen? I've never used a blue pen, she said. I love colors. I learn best and I do my best work when I am comfortable with colors. Okay? I mean, for Christmas, we'll get her different colored pens and things like that. But she has those preferences. I have no doubt in school that if a teacher pushed her to use a blue pen, she would have less buy-in. Is the objective of the lesson that you use a blue pen? No, it's never. I've never even heard of an objective like that. You have to let your guard down a bit to say, is this something do I have to draw the line in the sand here, or can I be flexible? Can you practice your own cognitive flexibility in the classroom, yes or no? And that's a huge thing to swallow for a lot of schools and teachers who are so used to having everything kind of in line. Where to sit. This has been a huge shift. We have recently got standing desks in the high school. We have now beanbags in every single class. And today I saw the most beautiful thing. I saw there was like portable kind of desks, like the ones you put over your legs, like the knee desks, lined in the hallway, and classes had the choice of like sitting in the hallway or going in the classroom. It was amazing to see. I really, the mentality of teachers is evolving, and that's what it should be, that flexible seating. Does it matter where you sit or how you sit? No. Throughout this presentation, my legs have been crossed. I've been sitting on one leg. I've been going back and forth. You haven't noticed, but I'm more comfortable, and we have to be okay with those flexible seatings and those choices. The wobbly stools help too. I mean, my office, I have one right here. We have bought a ton of the wobbly stools. We do have to teach that they're tools, not toys, and make sure that they are used appropriately. And even the seat cushions, tools, not toys. But having a variety and making, hey, your body's a little elevated. Maybe the wobbly stool isn't right for you. Maybe you want more of a compression. We have an OT at the school, so it does help in that area. But yes, Aisha, I am all for wobbly stools and different types of flexible seating. I should take some pictures for you, but the classrooms are there's one classroom with like 5 desks, and then there's tables, standing desks. This year has been the highlight of my time at this school when it comes to flexible seating. Also, looking at the partners. Sometimes they want to work alone. Sometimes they want to work dyads. And we have to be okay with when it's not in here, but that agency of when students say no. We have to make sure that no, I don't feel comfortable right now, or no, something happened at home and can I please work by myself? Wow, that is incredible to have a student advocate for themselves that they want to work by themselves or they don't want to work with a certain partner. That's that's really an awesome way to reinforce their own autonomy and advocacy. Another thing, oh, there's some more spelling mistakes, is the timing and flexibility. Some students it takes longer, some it takes shorter. And how can we increase or decrease that timing and flexibility to complete certain assignments when we can? Using different modalities of time. So timers, token boards, whatever it may be to really help guide them. And that's also something they can choose. Hey, do you want to use a timer for this, or would you like me to put ticks on the board and then we're finished when all the ticks are done? Those are awesome choices. Sand timers, yes, love sand timers. I have a whole collection actually. We stocked up. We have so many, like these little ones and big ones. They're all over my office for teachers to come and take. Uh, I'm all about sand timers too. So, Laura, we're thinking on the same page. All right. This is just a reminder about all of the small adjustments that you can do. The work order as well. What can you do first, second, or third? This is just a visual representation of the different things that I've talked about. Please keep in mind those different pens and pencils at the top, those tools in the classroom. All of you are now going to buy dot paper and probably buy different color pens after this. The flexible seating, the regulation. Yeah, you can get these slides. Annabelle, I think Lauren will pass them on, and they'll also be on YouTube. The last one on the bottom is something I left for the last bit. It is a little bit more scientific about motivation and reinforcement, and I'm going to get into that now, looking at how we can increase or decrease the value of something. And it's really important that we keep this in mind, especially when you remember that IKEA metaphor of going up and down the stairs. All right, we're nearly there, but this is a little bit more scientific, but I think it will add some clarity to choice preferences. When we look at motivation in terms of applied behavior analysis, there are 2 words I really would like you to remember. It's deprivation and satiation. These are 2 really big words, but they're so important when we look at students we serve. Deprivation means decreasing the value. I gave you the example of the student who just came from a lecture, who just came from somebody who was lecturing and they had to take notes. Value of taking notes went down. If another example, if you spent all morning doing group activities and they had to contact other people and be social and use a lot of their social abilities and chat nonstop, they might be a little bit tired of talking to other people and they might need a break. And so the value of being with other people might go down. They might need just time for themselves to do an activity independent. That's deprivation. The value is decreased. When we look at satiation, when we look at satiation, it's a reduction of the effects. I'm sorry. Deprivation means you have not had it. I'm so sorry. Deprivation means you haven't had it. Satiation means you've had too much of it. I'm confusing you on the last slide. I am so sorry for this. Deprivation, you have not had it. So when I was giving the example of talking to your friends, you've had too much of it and you don't want to do it. You want to do more of being by yourself, okay? Let's say that you have not had any interactions with others. You have not interacted with anyone else. You're separated at your own desk all morning long. You haven't been able to transition between classes. You need to talk to other people. We're social human beings. You've been deprived of social situations and you need to talk to other people, right? You go into a classroom and finally, the teacher says you can have a group activity and you're so pumped and you just want to do it because you want to interact with others because you've been deprived of that social interaction. So the value of being around others has increased. So those satiation and deprivation play a huge role in motivation, and we have to keep them in mind in the classroom. When we look at the choices, this is the last thing I'm going to say. When we look at the choices, if we're always giving the same choices, you can either use the brown pen or the blue pen. The brown pen or the blue pen, okay? If we keep doing the same thing over and over, we're giving them the same thing over and over, it's going to lose its value. When we give choices, that's exactly what it should be. Varied choices and not the same choices every day, every single time. And it's a little bit easier than it seems. You can either sit on the floor or you can sit on the carpet. Tomorrow you're going to give the choice. You can either sit on the beanbag or you can sit under your desk. We're going to vary those choices so they're not satiated. I hope you understand that. Maybe I confused you a little bit more. So just to wrap it up for today, the closing thoughts is that providing choice is simple but powerful. It really increases that buy-in, engagement, positive behavior. It aligns with UDL perfectly, looking at those principles of variability. Yeah, I can return to that slide. Or maybe not. Let me know if you have any questions about this slide. The one before this, sure. This one? Okay, can I move on, Annabella? You okay? And remember that choice is an antecedent intervention. It's grounded in applied behavior analysis. If you take anything from today, it's increase the autonomy, the agency, the voice and choice, and make sure your students have an active role in choosing things in the classroom, especially in those big, large groups of students. And thank you so much for choosing to be here today. You could have chosen not to be here. You could have chosen to be here. Some of you even chose to click on the links. So thank you for your feedback with those. I really appreciate your responses in the chat and being flexible, practicing that cognitive flexibility because technology didn't work. We had a few glitches. There were some spelling mishaps in my PowerPoint. I am human after all, so thank you for practicing your own flexibility and making those choices. I will make sure that I fix some of these spelling errors before Lauren sends this out. And I really appreciate all of you being here. So thank you again and have a wonderful, wonderful start to your school year.
And thank you so much. And thank you to Equip My Schools for being a sponsor of the webinar. I'll drop the link in the chat again for those of you that weren't able to access that and sign up. It's the same link that's been on wherever you signed up here. You just have to sign up for each individual session upcoming. So we hope to see you again next week. And Lauren, thank you again for this learning. It is making me think about how I've provided the same choices too much and kids might be satiated. So thank you. You got me thinking about it too. All right. So be sure you sign up for the next sessions. In regards to the YouTube account, I have not posted anything on YouTube until this series. So I will send my YouTube account information once we get, which I have all of your emails and I'll send it through to you once we get everything posted. But right now you'll go on and just see a blank screen. Thank you all so much for joining us. Lauren, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. See you all next week.